John, welcome. Thanks for joining us on our mini series all about PSM. I'm so excited that you're here. So, today we're talking about mechanical integrity, what it is, what that means. As far as the PSM program goes, mechanical integrity is one of the biggest elements, just in terms of all the components that it entails. Mechanical integrity really is, of all the components in your manufacturing setting, like a refinery, gas plant, whatever it is that you're doing, chemical plant, all the components, like the piping, the vessels, the pressure relieving devices, the rotating equipment like pumps and compressors and blowers and fans, like all that stuff has, a lifetime. It wasn't built to last forever. At least some of the components, or most of the components, are not built to last forever. There's a lifetime there. And the manufacturers of all those components have done their testing. And when you purchase them, hopefully they supply the documentation for what intervals you should be replacing this item. And it's not just a total replacement, but there could be certain components on a piece of equipment that need to be serviced or replaced at a certain interval. Just think of your car, your vehicle. We all know that the oil needs to be changed at certain intervals, whether it's 3,000 miles or 5,000 miles, depending on the year your car was made, the manufacturer, and what they're recommending, and the type of oil that you're using, right? And so you have like the oil filter that has to be changed out, or the oil or the timing belt. Like at certain intervals, all these little components have to be replaced. And then at some time, it's probably a good idea to just replace the whole car. So in a very similar way, the method in which you're keeping track of the myriad of components inside of a processing facility is all wrapped up into this element of mechanical integrity. So the late Thomas S. Monson said, when performance is tracked, performance improves. And when performance is tracked and reported, the rate of improvement accelerates. And so if you're not keeping track of all the key indicators with your equipment, how it's functioning and how it's being serviced and at what intervals, you really don't have a handle on how optimized your process is running. You might be continuing to sink money into a piece of equipment that really just needs to be replaced. Okay, this is analogous to like that junker vehicle that you had since college, right? And you're trying to hold on to the thing, and it's a money pit, and you're throwing thousands and thousands of dollars at it every year. And maybe you have this big emotional attachment, like maybe you built that car from scratch and I'm never getting rid of this baby. But if you were to take a step back and look at the key performance metrics, you'd see on paper that it'd be a good idea to replace that vehicle, unless you just really love it for emotional reasons, and then you keep on. But in the industrial setting, people don't typically have that emotional attachment to their equipment, and they really just care about the bottom line. And so that's what mechanical integrity is all about. And it's not just about monetary value and performance, but the reason it's part of process safety management is because some of that equipment, if it's not replaced, poses a real safety threat. Think of a vessel. A vessel is constructed with a certain wall thickness, and when the engineering group designed that vessel, they said, well, because it's this type of metal with this thick wall and you're running at this pressure and this temperature, this is what that vessel can handle. And we're going to build into that a little safety factor called a corrosion allowance. And so, every time something corrosive hits the vessel and it eats a little bit of that wall away, and you realize that's going to happen because you're maybe manufacturing stuff that has, corrosive potential. And so that's kind of a necessary evil, but you want to make sure that your vessels aren't going to fail catastrophically and, explode or fly apart. That would be bad. So mechanical integrity has this guidance that governs at what intervals are you supposed to be inspecting things like a pressure vessel or a piece of pressurized piping and whatnot, and how often does that need to be replaced. And most importantly, if you're not tracking all of this through documentation, then it might as well not be happening. And so there's guidance that governs not only how to inspect it, but how to document it so that you can prove to your employees and contractors and everyone who is going to be working around this stuff that you've got your ducks in a row and you're doing things right. Again, imagine that your job is to keep track of all that, right? Like all the components in a facility. This would be like not just if you had to take care of your favorite junker vehicle that you built in college, right? But if you had, to keep track of a fleet of 3,000, 4,000 vehicles and all their maintenance and all that stuff. Imagine trying to do that with a spreadsheet. And your job is to call up every, person who drives that vehicle to tell them when to get their oil changed and when to take it to the shop. And you have to try to negotiate all the deals with all the mechanics. And you have to do all of this in a 24-hour day. Can you do it? I don't think so. But people try all the time. We see it as consultants. We see people trying to manage with spreadsheets the service dates of all their rotating equipment and pressure vessels and whatnot. And it's just a lot. Typically, those people are overworked. They're just buried in the work that they're doing is just tracking things with the spreadsheet. And it's not a very high value. It's valuable in that when it's done well, people are safe, but it can easily be transferred to a system that's a whole lot better. Now imagine with me for a second that instead of having this spreadsheet with 3,000 things to track, there is this nice automated system, some software even, that for a small nominal price a month, that same person can just focus on some higher value stuff, maybe come up with some training content and actually have time to think and consider and manage their team and their personnel, or just maybe get home at a reasonable hour to their wife and kids and eat dinner as a family. So that's possible, by the way. There are specific tools and software that can be implemented so that is exactly what happens. And today, in this day and age, they're really cost effective. And we can dive deep into some of those tools. We can dive deep into some of those strategies on how you manage documentation so you're not tearing your hair out and you're totally ready for any kind of process safety management audit, and you don't even have to worry. And you can have your normal weekends off and you can go home and eat dinner with your family. And we're going to cover all that in detail in the full masterclass on PSM. And so if that's has anything to do with your job, or you want to just take a huge load off of your PSM group, join us for the masterclass. But until then, hopefully this was insightful about what it means to cover mechanical integrity as part of PSM. Thanks.